This is episode number 100 with me, Bryan Teare.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Bryan Teare.
The thing that got you here is keeping you back from the place you want to go. What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 100 of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast. I've waited way too long to be saying that. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, as always, Bryan Teare. And that's a little quote that I've kind of adapted and used myself to describe what we're going to speak about on today's episode. This is episode 100, and you can grab all the links and resources I'm going to mention at bryanteare.com/100, and I'll be sure to mention that again. But I wanted to use this episode today to kind of celebrate the journey we've been on together for what is today 2 years. It's the second birthday here in the Teare household. We've already celebrated with some vegan, gluten-free chocolate cupcakes, which have been amazing. But I wanted to kind of look back at the last 2 years, the last 100 episodes, and share a bit about the journey and celebrate a little bit together. You've been with me for, whether you've been with me for all 100 episodes or just the last couple, I really do appreciate you more than you know, as I say in every episode. So I wanted to kind of celebrate together and take a look at how far we've come. Now, this podcast has been an amazing part of my journey over the last 2 years, and it's had such a profound impact on my life. When I started the show 2 years ago, I decided to create a show interviewing inspiring guests that I wanted to learn from, because I was at a point in my life where I felt stuck and lost and confused. And I thought that this might be a great way to move forward while helping others in the same situation. So I've shared this before, but the 3 reasons I started the podcast was to grow my own network, to not have to be the expert myself, and I could get other people on who knew more about a certain topic than I did. And the third reason was, what I just alluded to now, is I could learn from these people that I really were inspired by and wanted to learn from and ask questions. And at the same time, people listening could do the same thing. And today I can confidently say that I've gained so much clarity and direction by sitting down week after week after week to speak with these guests who I now call friends and mentors. And I think I've hit those 3 goals pretty well. The relationships and the skills that I've developed over the last 2 years have been amazing. And I was saying to my wife just the other day, to Taryn just the other day, that I feel like I'm at a point now where I could create income, if I needed to, based on the skills that I've generated. And I don't think I'd ever be in a place again where I couldn't create some income. So build those skills, develop those relationships. Those 2 hand in hand are really the golden ticket to creating a life on your own terms. The other real big benefit and part of this journey is that I've become friends with people that I looked up to online. People like Jason Goldberg, Jacob Sokol, Greg Faxon, Christina Berkeley, Michael Balshin, Bassam Tarazi. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. But really, it's such an amazing feeling to see these people on social media who we look up to so much, and to be able to drop them an email or hop on a Skype call with them and just catch up and, support each other however we can. So I don't take that lightly at all. The biggest win I've got from the show has definitely been those relationships and being able to, call some of those mentors now my friends. The feedback that I've got from you guys has been incredible. Not many weeks go by where I don't get at least one email saying how the show's impacted their life, or it's come at just the right time, or it's made such a difference. And to have that global impact is really something that's created more and more of a drive in me to keep doing more of that. And you'll hear more about that later on. But really, that's been such a blessing, and I'm so grateful to have played a part in whatever role it is that I've been able to play in your life. So thank you for listening to this, and you are really the one that's kind of spurred that on. And then, as I mentioned, the direction and clarity that I've got has been insane. And there's a little lesson which I'll come back to later on, but that is you only gain clarity by taking action. Clarity is not something that you act from. So it's this whole concept I've been speaking about lately of like, come from the place you're trying to get to. Tony Robbins says you can't get out of scarcity. You have to come out of scarcity. So you have to start out of abundance, and that way you'll attract more abundance. And without getting too woo-woo, yeah, it's the same as this. If you're trying to find clarity, you're not going to do it by sort of sitting down and trying to think about it. You're going to get it by taking action, getting feedback, failing forward, and then realizing like, cool, this is moving me forward, or it's not, and then you take another step. So really, like, that's been a big lesson for me. And like I said, I've got so much clarity on what I want to create in the world and who I want to serve, just by putting this podcast out there week after week after week. Now, that all being said, there does also come a time where we need to kill our darlings. And you're probably thinking like, Bryan, what the hell does that mean, kill your darlings? But it's just about, sometimes even the things that are going well, we need to let them go and be willing to let them go if they're not sort of moving us forward towards the desired result or the desired outcome that we're looking for. And I suppose income is sometimes a part of that. But if they're not getting us the results that we initially wanted, we do need to have a look at them from a distance and say, like, is this something I still need to be taking on? And I feel like in order to truly step into the next phase of what's possible for our lives, we need to be able to kill our darlings. And for me, that time is now. For a while, I've been feeling, I'm a big believer in something being a hell yes or a hell no. And for a while now, the podcast has been just a yes. It's definitely not been a no, definitely not a maybe, but it's been a yes and not a hell yes. And I've decided, this being episode 100 and being a fan of round numbers like the geek that I am, to take a short break from the podcast to focus on my coaching and reevaluating my business and pivoting slightly, and coming back with something even more helpful. I struggled a lot with this actually, around thinking, well, I get all these emails from people saying it's helped them so much, and maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking like, no, Bryan, no. But really, like, to me, that's coming from a place of scarcity and lack, and not a place from abundance. This thinking that if I'm not doing this thing, then I'm not going to be adding value, when actually I could create something new and add even more value to those very same people. So why the change? Well, I need to treat this more of a business and less like a hobby. And that might sound like super corporate and formal, but the reality is, if I want to make money doing and make a living doing the thing that I love and inspiring other people to do the same thing, then I need to look at this like a business and evaluate what's moving the needle forward and what's not. So in order for me to keep creating awesome content, I need to know that it's having a positive effect, and turning this into a business so that I can then create that awesome content. During the past 2 years, I feel like I've evolved. I started, as I said, feeling stuck and confused and not sure what I wanted to do, where my journey has changed a lot. And I'm no longer in that quarter-life crisis phase. I've got more clarity around my vision. And I feel like this is another step towards that vision. It's kind of like the lily pads that Smiley Pozwalski spoke about back in episode, I think it's 25 or 26 or something, where we're not on this career ladder anymore, where we're on one path and moving in one direction. We can jump from thing to thing to thing if it's still moving us forward. And you can imagine this little frog jumping from lily pad to lily pad. And then the quote that I mentioned right at the beginning, the thing that got you here is the same thing keeping you back from what you want to create or where you want to go. So what got you here is not going to get you to where you want to go. And that's exactly how I feel about the podcast as it is right now, in that, it's had such a benefit in my life and an impact in my life, but I'm not going to get to that ultimate vision of what I want to create by keeping on doing what I've been doing the whole time. So it's been amazing, but at the same time, I don't want to pigeonhole myself and box myself in as just the 20-something guy, or the find your passion guy. I want to speak about more than just career stuff and finding your passion. I want to speak about how do we create a global impact? How do we make a real difference in the world and impact those around us and kind of do good in the world and spread a positive message, and not just this sort of, dare I say, selfish thing of how do I find my passion. So I've had major mixed feelings about this. The podcast has become a part of who I am, and I was driving home the other day and I really got sad, like close to tears really, about the thought of stopping this. But it's not stopping in the true sense. So what's coming next? And I just wanted to kind of take you guys behind the scenes and open the kimono, as Tim Ferriss would say, and reveal what's going on in my head and in my business, and let you know where I'm at. So there's definitely going to be more of a focus on my coaching and really building up the business side of things before I take on, this huge content platform again. I am looking at turning the Quarter Life Comeback into not just a podcast, but into a group program, so that if you're still in this situation, you don't feel like you've been abandoned, but it's just, there will be a different way for you to take advantage of that and to sort of tackle that. So if you are interested in a group program around some of the stuff we talk about in this podcast, drop me an email, brian@bryanteare.com, or inbox me on Facebook, and let me know if that's something you would be interested in. But as I said, I am keen to still serve this audience in some way or another. And the way I think I could best do that is through some sort of group program, and really more direct support with people through this kind of stuff that they're going through. I've also, you've possibly noticed, started sending out daily emails and publishing on Medium and my own blog, which I'll link in the show notes. But loving getting back into the writing again, warming up those writing muscles to hopefully prepare for writing a book. I know at the start of this year that was a big goal of mine, but now having a look and reevaluating of where I'm focusing my attention, I don't know if 2018 is the year of the book for me, but certainly getting back into the swing of writing. And I've had some really great feedback there. So check it out on Medium and my blog, and sign up for the daily emails too, which you probably are getting if you are subscribed to my newsletter already. Then the big one is probably, well, what the hell is happening to the podcast? And rather than shutting it down completely, which I said before, I'm not really keen on because of the relationships I've built and the feedback I've got, I'm looking at pivoting and rebranding the podcast. Now, I don't have a fixed date for this yet, so make sure you stay subscribed to the podcast. You won't have to choose or subscribe to a brand new one. It'll be on this channel, on this podcast as it is. There'll just be a different kind of look and feel, and it'll definitely be changing in focus slightly from more the 20-something, find my passion kind of stuff, career stuff, to the global impact and the big impact and that kind of thing that I spoke about earlier. So getting on guests who are at the top of their game, finding out how they got there, how you guys can make a bigger impact where you are already, and all that good stuff. And that would include a lot more solo content and video content as well. So expect some more of that from me later down the line. But as I said, no fixed dates for that yet. It's all just exciting project ideas right now. And then I've been working on some new tools for you guys too. And the first of which is a productivity planner. Now, this is a planner that I use to kind of focus on what's most important in my day and getting the right things done, achieving my goals faster, and making more of an impact in my work and at home. Family's a big value for me this year and a big focus. So that's been really helpful. And a lot of you have downloaded it already. I'll put a link in the show notes if you haven't, so you can check that out. Now, it has been 100 episodes, as I've said probably 100 times in this episode. And I thought it would be really valuable to share the top 5 lessons that I've learned from this process. And it's not these sort of airy-fairy, like, work harder or that kind of thing. These are lessons that I've really gathered and I think could be really helpful for you based on the success I've had in the show of, 50,000 downloads, which I'm very proud about, and showing up week after week. So the first one is put your thoughts out there. Like, I've mentioned this on a couple of shows before, but if there's something that interests you, and even if you don't know what exactly that is, find a way to make that public. And a lot of you will be thinking like, well, I don't want to share my thoughts publicly or my ideas publicly. But as soon as you can find a way to put your thoughts and ideas out into the world, whether that's a podcast like this or a blog, you don't even need a blog. You can write on Medium for free and have a way bigger audience see it than when I started blogging. Or you can start a YouTube channel or Facebook Lives, whatever it may be. Find a way to put your message out there, because when you do that, people start seeing what it is that you're interested in, and they reach out because they want to help. And at the same time, you get clearer on what it is that you are interested in. It's kind of like journaling with the added accountability to it. The second is reach out to people that you admire. And I mentioned before, like becoming friends with my mentors. A lot of those have been through, just being a human being and saying like, hey, I really loved this piece of content that you put out. Or, hey, I just took this course of yours. These are the results I got. Thank you so much. Just using social media to be social, really. And it seems like these people with big platforms are intimidating and hard to reach, but actually it's the complete opposite. So reach out to the people you admire. And the third lesson out of these top 5 is related to that, and that is add value before you ask for something in return. So, don't just say, oh, I need to, like, I want to take Bryan's Quarter Life Comeback course for free, so I'm going to, just ask him for it. No, like, reach out. There's a few things that I'm going to need in my business in the weeks to come and the months to come. So if it's me or anyone else, like, build a relationship first without expectation of anything in return, or without even wanting anything. And then, and I've got personal experience from this, when you do need help, it's amazing how easy it is to reach out to these people with big businesses and big platforms and be like, hey, how would you do this? This is what I've tried. What do you think? And they are happy to help. It's kind of mentorship 101. So there you go. The fourth one, and this is a big one. I'm lucky that my 2 top Gallup StrengthsFinder tests, strengths are discipline and consistency. And that second one, consistency, is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Show up consistently. You never know what will happen when you put yourself out there week after week after week. In the 2 years that I've run this show now, I haven't missed a single week of putting out an episode, except for intentionally taking off Christmas and New Year's. And the other weeks, there'll be times where you can't think of new content. For example, in this podcast, there were weeks where I didn't have any interviews scheduled. Then you just, make it up. Think on your feet. I rebroadcast past episodes which people loved because they maybe didn't come across them before they subscribed. I did some solo content. So there's really no limit to, what you can come up with. Just put yourself out there, even if it's a few sentences in a Facebook status or, a one-word blog post, which I've done before. Crazy, but I've really done that. So show up consistently. And the final one, which is probably the biggest, is this concept of clarity through action. So many people say, how do I find my purpose? And I'm probably going to come back to this later on. But you don't find your purpose, okay? You create your purpose and your passion. So really, like, passion isn't something that exists out there. It's in you. So you get to choose what you are passionate about. So take action. It's the same as people say, well, how do I gain more confidence? Or I need to feel more confident before I act. But acting is how you get confidence. All right, so take action before you're ready, and that is how the clarity will come. Man, I'm on a roll here. I need to slow down. And finally, guys, I do want to be mindful of the time here. I don't want this to be a super long episode, and I hope you've listened all the way to this point. This episode, although very, very different from normal, means a hell of a lot to me, and I'm just really enjoying kind of sharing what's going on. But I did want to end this episode and not sort of skip by it by not mentioning the answers to my questions that I ask every guest at the end of my interviews. And I've been on a few episodes or interviews on other people's podcasts, and I've always kind of expected that someone was going to ask me my same questions, but they never have. So I thought it'd be really fun to share what I believe are the answers to these final questions. So the first one that you will know is, I ask every guest, what do you wish you'd been told in your 20s or early in your 20s if they are still in their 20s? What do I wish I'd been told in my 20s? That you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to do things a specific way. You can create your own path. And the other part of that is just get started. This is one that's come up over and over and over again. But just take the first step. Something that a lot of people have asked me when they're getting ready to launch their own podcast is like, how did you find all these guests to speak to? And the reality is I didn't know them before I started the podcast. I knew maybe 2 or 3 guys who I'd already recorded an interview with. And I put those out there. And after every episode, I said, who do you know who would be a great fit for the show? Who's got an exciting message that would be really valuable for people in their 20s to hear? And it just snowballed in that way. And, reaching out to people on Twitter and that kind of thing. So you don't need to see the whole road ahead before taking the next step. In a talk I gave at my old high school, I said, the headlights on your car don't need to shine all the way to your front door in order to drive home safely. So all you need to do is take that next tiny step. I had shitty equipment and I didn't know most of the guests I've had, and here I am on 100 episodes. So just do the smallest thing that you can and keep moving forward. The next question I ask all guests is, what is the biggest opportunity for quarter lifers today? And without a doubt, in my opinion, it's the internet and the ability to create your own business and a lifestyle based on the things that you love to do. And coupled with that is the ability to connect and make friends with your role models or anyone else online. It's insane to think that we can just reach out to absolutely anyone in the world on the other side of the world, whether we know them or not, and be able to establish a conversation with these people or build a friendship or that kind of thing. These opportunities didn't exist for our parents and generations before them, whereas now there's really no excuse not to at least attempt that thing that you're dreaming about and try and create the impact that you're desperately trying to create. The final question that I ask all guests is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their quarter life comeback? And for me, without a doubt, it's get clear on your vision. Know what it is that you want to create. Know what it is that you're working towards. Pick a goal for the next 90 days that moves you towards that while still being a challenging goal for the 90 days. And then take the smallest first step you can think of to start making that happen. And this must be stupidly small. Like, it could be reaching out to someone who could have a relationship or a connection that you would want to gain. It could be registering that domain name. It could be telling someone about your goals. So just take the tiny first step in order to move you towards that 90-day goal that supports your ultimate vision. So that, I think, guys, is unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, gonna wrap things up here for episode 100 of the Quarter Life Comeback podcast. As I said, it's been an amazing journey. I am so grateful for all the support that you guys have given me over the last 2 years, and being able to have an impact and make a difference in your life. I'm kind of like getting a little bit emotional thinking about this and thinking that, next week, my birthday, I won't be switching on the microphone and hitting publish on a new episode. But it has been an amazing journey, and at the same time, it's time for me to evolve and step into the next level of what's possible for my life and to make an even bigger impact, and spread this message around impact and meaning and that kind of thing, which is definitely going to be a big focus for me. Impact is my main theme for 2018, and I'm excited to explore that further. So as I said, make sure you subscribe to get these daily emails that I've been sending. Go check out my blog, bryanteare.com/blog. I'll put all of this in the show notes at bryanteare.com/100. And yeah, guys, I appreciate you more than you know. And until we meet again on the new version of the podcast, keep creating your quarter life comeback. This is Bryan Teare, signing out.